I can explain. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc is a visual novel developed and published by Spike Chunsoft on November 25th, 2010 for the PSP, blah blah blah, exposition dump. Remember the PSP? No, exactly. We're not turning this into a 4-hour plot summary, we've got things to do. Though, for those of you unaware, first of all, why did you click on this? Visual novels do exactly what they say on the tin. They're novels, but they're visual. Basically, a book, but you play as the main character, and as opposed to most video games, you don't actively have as much involvement as you'd expect with the story. It's similar to those choose-your-own-adventure books, you know, the ones where you turn to a certain page to quote-unquote make a decision that basically gives the illusion you're making a difference in the story, and not just following one uniform storyline with different branches. Danganronpa takes this, adds game mechanics, voice acting, and best of all, movement, and blends it with a perfectly written narrative to create a compelling story with a plethora, and I mean a plethora of twists. Now we've covered what a visual novel is, what's the premise of the game itself? Well, 15 students have been locked in a school by this bear guy. That's me! And have unfortunately been pit against each other in the mundane school version of a WWE ring. Their task is simple. Kill another student, get away with it, and you get to leave the school. Otherwise, you're trapped here forever! This sets the initial motive, but throughout the game, Monokuma, Bear Guy, hands them a few more motives when things get boring, which, by his standards, means 5 minutes without bloodshed. I know, he doesn't mess around. This little maniac be throwing out motives like Oprah handing out car keys. You get trauma, and you get trauma. Everyone gets trauma. And, how do I follow that? Oh yeah, each student gets their own specialty. For example, there's one called the Ultimate Fanfic Creator, which, yeah, he's exactly who you'd think he is. An accurate representation of the Danganronpa fandom. It's as if they knew! So yeah, all these kids specialize in different fields, further examples being the Ultimate Writing Prodigy and Ultimate Fashionista. They have to use said intrinsic skills to solve murders and call out the murderer, dubbed the Blackened. Okay, Monokuma, what do you mean by that? Because if they don't guess the right person, they all die. If they do guess said Blackened, the murderer dies a horribly gruesome death at the hands of a bear. That's me! So, ultimately, special needs kids kill each other. If they don't guess the murderer, they die. If they do, the murderer dies, and their objective is to either live there until they perish of old age, or escape to the outside world where their families are rumoured to be. Emphasis on the rumoured. With that said and done, let's delve into the game itself. I will say, there's a lot I won't be explaining, so that introduction segment was more for old fans to be refreshed on their existing knowledge. So no, this video is not newbie friendly. Anyway, without further ado, take it away, Monokuma! Trigger Happy Havoc opens up with what I can only describe as the most beautiful setting possible. Makoto, a young teen, discovers he's been plucked from a hat to be the one and only ultimate lucky student, the only one of its kind, to attend Hope's Peak High School. He has a loving and supportive family, and upon researching the other students online, finds some seriously talented individuals among its roster. Images of the school's exterior grace our eyes. It's bright, beautiful, almost dreamlike. And this, my friends, is how you set up a subversion of expectations. Hope's Peak seems like a utopia, a divine place for only the most talented, skillful, ultimate students, but when we peel back the layers, we see it for what it truly is. On the surface, it's paradise, and from a lore perspective, we eventually learn it genuinely was as good as it looked. For a while, but the developers knew something we didn't. We, the players, have no clue about the true state of this place, not yet. Instead, we're going straight from fainting outside paradise to awakening in academic hell. This right here, folks, is the first of many twists this twisted game throws at us during our experience. It allows us to let our guard down, knowing that at some point things will go wrong, but hey, everything looks so perfect. How could this miraculously transform into the killing game alluded to in the tagline? And that's what makes the opening so genius. You're set up to believe you'll live in this high school dream, maybe take your time, make friends, enjoy life as one of the ultimates. I'm sure a lot of people, me included, expected a slow burn, maybe a dozen or so hours of free time and slice of life before things went south. A DDLC type deal, ignoring the release dates. But nope, all that time you thought you'd be spending happened off camera, knocking itself in the arsenal for a miraculous reveal later on, and you're thrown right into the chaos. It's a subtle yet brutally jarring subversion. You're shown this beautiful world, expecting to live in it for a while, only to have it ripped away before you even get the chance. You knew the killing game was coming, just not this soon. Now, what's our actual objective with this chapter? Well, dear viewer, it's to set the scene. What is it that makes Hope's Peak, a school, work so well for this game's premise? How does our initial introduction to this place contribute to how we feel about it from the get-go? All the basic framework, that kind of stuff. To start, school is a relatable place. Hell, college is a relatable place. Literally anyone can relate to the idea of an academic hell. Ignoring the obvious prim and proper private school aesthetic we're trapped in, the idea of school as a concept is something 99.9% of Danganronpa's target audience already knows inside and out. And who is this target audience, you may be asking? Teenagers. Hormonal, brain-melting, TikTok-scrolling teenagers. But aside from the degeneracy, it's interesting to note how well a school works in this context. I'd bet most people have had the passing thought, hey, what would happen if I lived in my school? And this game takes that innocent little daydream, runs it over with a steamroller a few times, stamps on it, sets it on fire until it's malleable, and molds it into something horrifyingly feasible. Feasible as in, oh, the world ended, by the way. So Hope's Peak is undeniably a school, and school is universal. Almost everyone's been to one, we get it. That relatability makes it the perfect setting, not just for the story, but for a weirdly symbiotic second life. The majority audience playing this thing are those sitting inside playing video games all day, anxious introverts. I mean, let's be honest, ignoring the hypocrisy in that statement, casual gamers don't have the time nor commitment to contribute so much time to playing this drawn out, well-written story on and off. So the idea of creating such a tight bond between the characters and the player, thanks to the relatable setting, thanks to the circumstances, stands out to me. The idea of living in a school with a chance to just talk to people, make friends and belong, that's the fantasy, and Danganronpa gives you that fantasy. For about 5 minutes. You walk the halls, you introduce yourself to the popular kids, and they don't blow you off. They're friendly, they're curious, they like you. Something that they would never do in real life, and for a moment, even just a moment, it feels like the life you've always wanted. And then they start dying, or worse, they start killing. This game takes the wish fulfillment of being accepted, belonging, and having friends, and it loads that hope into a gun, and then it pulls the trigger. The setting itself is so comfortable, so familiar. If you're willing to feel safe at school with all the mad kids running about, this scenario is no different, if not better. So when you come face to face with betrayal, that's when the game lets you know, reminds you that this place isn't an escape. Oh no, mate. It's the dystopian idea of a twisted question. What would you do if you and your classmates were trapped in a prison and your only way out was to murder one of them? And while not an age-old question, in fact, I'm quite sure I'm the only person to ever utter those words, the answer is one you subconsciously think about throughout the experience. Oddly, you knew full well this was happening. You were in the killing game. Yet, here we go, you let Sayaka in. You trusted her, believed in her, but she was just an example thrown at you by the twisted Japanese overlords. An industry plant right there at the beginning to bring you back to the reality of the situation. Her betrayal is the moment the game slaps the copium out of your hands. She's the first friend you make, she's your comfort zone, all by chance. In the same breath though, she's also the one who tries to kill you, and that's not an accident. That's the game telling you brutally, trust will get you killed. A perfect way of setting the stage. And let's delve into another reason this works so well, the killing game. Why does the idea of a killing game happen to work so perfectly inside a school? You know what? Let's talk about it, because this is where Danganronpa stops being a story and starts being a psychological experiment. To kick things off is something quite obvious if you think about it. Schools, inherently, are based on competition. It's a constant battle to be better than those around you, so chuck the best of the bunch, the elite of the elite, and then some guy, and you've not only emulated that idea perfectly, but amplified it by about 100. Hope's Peak is the arena for humanity's best, and when you trap the best in a room with no exit, the game writes itself by that point. Furthermore, a school is an easy way to write this off as a procedure. Schools, for the most part, have a sense of order, consistency, and a strict set of guidelines. If not, you probably went to my school. It is shit. They're a place where individuals are contracted by the higher governmental power to attend and have one true goal in mind, yet convey it in a multitude of different ways. You know what this sounds like? That's right, the killing game! Monokuma, the higher governmental power, has forcefully contracted students to a procedure with strict rules, a ritualistic sense of consistency, and overbearing order. They have one goal: reach total, unequivocal despair, yet attempt to get there in a multitude of different ways, i.e. ever-changing motives. This makes Hope's Peak, the school, and Hope's Peak, the killing game, incredibly similar, almost identical. This speaks to me as the only right way to convey this idea. If you've got a procedure that functions so akin to a school, where's a better place to put it? And it just so happens that when the Despair Sisters needed a playground for their apocalypse, Hope's Peak's principal handed them a golden ticket, a foolproof shelter away from the tragedy. All they had to do was sneak inside. And we all know how that turned out, but oh, we are not done yet, as it's much more than just a deathmatch between elites. It works because Hope's Peak isn't just any school, it's a school built on the idea of hope, a place where the brightest, most talented people gather to build a better future, and that's exactly why the killing game hits so hard, because it doesn't just kill people, it kills hope at the same time. The school was designed to create leaders, heroes, the people who would inspire the rest of the world, and now those same people are being trapped, isolated, and turned into killers. These are the best of us as a species, the next generation with talent unparalleled, the people we're supposed to look up to. Most of all, they're the people who are supposed to save us, in a sense, keep the cogs turning, represent businesses and future empires. And when those people fail, trapped in a labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize, what hope does anyone else have? If Hope's representatives can't even handle despair, who the hell else can? Well, that's the true horror of the killing game. You kill folks, sure. You're trapped with no definitive way out, sure. But it's deeper than that. It's that the people you believed in, whether you're a student their age, a player right there on the front lines like Makoto, or someone watching from the outside in the comfort of your own home, are tearing each other apart. And quite honestly, if they can't hold it together, no one can. That's the purpose given to us by Junko Enoshima, the mastermind. Hope's Peak is a microcosm of humanity's best, and watching it self-destruct sends a message to everyone. There is no future, there's only despair. So that's why the killing game fits in this specific setting. It stands against Hope's finest, forcing them into despair one by one. Now, our final point for this segment. Monokuma! How does he contribute to the setting? What does he add that enhances the experience? Well, here it is. And then there's Monokuma, the ringleader, the ringmaster, the literal bear running the circus. And that bear is what works. Monokuma works because he's not human. He's not a person you can look in the eye and say, "Why are you doing this to us?" He's a mascot, a puppet, and a character played by someone else. And that's exactly why he's so dangerous, because when horror has a human face, we react differently. If Junko stood there the whole time, smiling, talking, taunting, this story wouldn't be absurdist. It wouldn't be funny. It'd be intimate, painful. It's always worse to be betrayed by one of your own. If Chihiro killed your best mate, you'd never recover. If Alter Ego wiped out your entire family's bloodline, somehow that's easier to process. Monokuma is Alter Ego on a grand scale. Separate the art from the artist, twisted into distance the crime from the criminal, a way of adding a significant buffer between the evil doer and the evil. And that's what makes it easier for us, the player, to laugh. Ah, Monokuma again, what a funny little asshole. In fact, I don't even need to imagine this quote. I've got countless examples of me doing it without even thinking. Insert that damn clip, fellas. Ugh. There's two of them. There's two of them. Why is there two of them? And why are they holding hands? Now, let me paint this picture. What if Junko were in the front seat? No one's making jokes anymore now, are they? She's human. Physically, mentally, she's a monster. But either way, the more you can relate to someone, whether it's on a physical, emotional, or psychological level, the tougher it is to wrestle with the fact that they are who they say they are. Absolute maniacs. There's a basic sense of morals we associate with people. A standard case of, don't go around murdering folk, and I prefer you didn't shoot that man's head off for no reason. So when these baselines are completely ignored in pursuit for raw, unadulterated animalism, it makes it a lot harder to sweep under the rug and joke about just to keep yourself sane, let alone forgive. Backing off that, take Genocide Jack for example. She's there, in the room, she's not even killing people. In fact, she makes it quite clear she has no intent to kill anyone. And yet, everyone's still watching her with a keen eye like birds of prey, waiting for her to twitch just a little too much, like she's about to lunge across the room and rip someone's throat out. This all boils down to because she's real, she's one of their own, and that makes her dangerous in a way Monokuma isn't. I mean, the bear's alluded to much worse and has shown firsthand with Junko the kind of power he holds, yet nobody bats an eye. He's a jester, Saturday morning cartoony, and barely tall enough to ride a roller coaster, let alone swim in the kiddie pool. No wonder people don't take him seriously. Monokuma is Junko's sick joke, so much so, she has a cardboard cutout she speaks through even after replacing him. She loves playing the character because it's a way to undermine the chaos in place for mindless humour. The more ridiculous Monokuma is, the easier it is to pretend none of it's real, just a figment of your imagination, a collective trauma response across the entire spectrum of our main cast, from Chihiro to Sakura. Everyone brushes him off to reject the reality that he has all the power. That's right, the bear. Nobody wants to accept that, and that's a leading factor as to why the ego heads in the room pile on the idea of murder first. I mean, beaten by a bear? Seriously? I'm sure that must be unbearable, right? So, Monokuma is the perfect frontman for despair because he makes you laugh while he breaks you. And by the time you realise you can't really trust him, he's not as incompetent as he seems, it's too late. The game's already started, and trust, that's about to get a lot messier. Welcome to Chapter 2. Now, what's this all about? Well, in layman's terms, I'll be running through each of our cast members, giving some of my surprisingly hot takes on how they were portrayed, whether I liked them or not, and why, and let's sprinkle in some analysis while we're at it, discuss their character arcs as characters, why not? I'll get him out of the way first. Makoto, our protagonist. Honestly, as frustratingly annoying it can be at times, I have no real disdain for his character, and I actually think he works quite well. First of all, the man's always 5 steps ahead of me. I'm supposed to be him, yet sometimes I click on pieces of evidence and I'm surprised how quickly he turns it from an image to a whole deeply intertwined narrative to expose the others. Mate, I'm sat here thinking, it's just a candy wrapper. Makoto's already reconstructed the crime scene, solved the case, and invented time travel. All from that damn candy wrapper. Like, 1 minute we're all like, yeah, it's Hero, no doubt, vote for him, get him out of here, and then Makoto flops along, waddled up duct tape in hand, ready to go. You see this, yeah? You see this? Big long explanation. So that's why it's Celeste, and we're all here like,
that's an awfully hot coffee pot.
What? Also, I appreciate their attempts to keep him quite bland. That could be seen as a criticism, but at the end of the day, for a protagonist in a game that's meant to be entirely immersive in both the environment and character interactions, they pretty much have to be a Warburton's wholemeal loaf. Bland as fuck. It allows the player to project themselves onto the character and actively live in the world in ways a complex, intricate character could not evoke in such a sense. He's plain white rice, but in Danganronpa, plain white rice is still better than starving, so ultimately, yeah, Makoto's a placeholder for the player, and he fulfills his purpose just fine. Next up, Sayaka. Oh boy, here we go. I hate Sayaka. Just like everyone else with an ounce of self-respect and a moral compass, I bloody hate her. But I'm not going to skirt around the fact that that's the point, particularly from a writing perspective. It's kind of genius, obviously. In a way, she's the catalyst for the killing game. Her death, or more accurately, her attempted murder, sets the tone for everything that comes after, as no longer is betrayal such an abstract, far off in the distance threat. It's real and probable, and it's happening right now, as we speak. Guys, run! Before Sayaka, we knew there was a chance someone might snap, but afterwards, it's not exactly a question anymore, is it? It's more like, when? But knowing all that doesn't make me hate her any less, because what she does to Makoto, scummy as fuck. There we are, I said it. I couldn't even wait for the interval. See ya, bye monetization. Yeah, okay. She forces herself into his comfort zone, and granted, he's fine with it. He's a golden retriever of a protagonist, so he's not going to say no, but knowing what's coming makes it hit a little different. To put it bluntly, Sayaka manipulates him. She leads him on, she lets him trust her, and then she yanks the rug out from under him in the worst possible way. I mean, she just straight up changes the nameplates on the doors, something I can hardly argue is subtle, nor is it a spur-of-the-moment panic decision. If anything, that makes it so much worse, the fact that it's premeditated. Yeah, premeditated, calculated, cold-blooded bullshit. And I understand the stakes, right? Her mates are supposedly dead, and she's just as afraid as all of us. So she wants an easy way out. But that doesn't change the fact she wasn't trying to kill, but also frame someone else. Hello? She was willing to let all of us die for her single mistake. And that, to me, is worse than anything Celeste ever pulled. And yeah, we'll get to Celeste later, but quick one. At least she was upfront about it, right? And we all got the general gist of who she was and how she felt. It was all very blunt. She didn't pretend to be your friend or force comfort on anyone. She was this distant, guarded individual. We all knew she was quirky and downright odd, so for the most part, we steered clear of her. In a weird way, she was actually quite honest. And honestly, I'd much rather prefer someone tell me they hate me to my face than lead me on pretending to like me. Pretty universal for all of us, I'm sure. But this bitch, I mean, Sayaka played along and pretended she knew Makoto was this little twink with no grasp of self-confidence and respect at that point, so she capitalized on it. In fact, I'd beg to say she had the knife ready the second the game bloody started. Anyway, enough of my ramblings. Who's next? Oh, that's right, Kyoko. Man, what an upgrade from Sayaka in terms of love interests. And don't you sit there telling me it's not canon. He died for her, she dumps to dive to save him, and if that's not love, I don't know what it is. Get a grip, lad. Finally, someone in this disaster of a situation who actually knows what they're doing. And yeah, I'll admit it, she's one of my favourite characters. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm not a little biased, but there's a reason to it. Kyoko's smart, in a sharp, observant, always 2 steps ahead of you kind of way. She picks up on things nobody else does, and keeps it to herself until it matters. And while the rest of the group is busy panicking or pointing fingers, Kyoko's already figured out who did it and how. She just waits for the right time to drop it on everyone. In fact, she's so sure of herself and her ability that she's actively dropping breadcrumbs for the rest of the group to catch up, because she's already cracked the code. And the best thing about her, particularly with this set of skills, is that she doesn't make a big deal about it. She's not out here flaunting how smart she is. She's pretty quiet, reserved, and yeah, at first, she seems pretty closed off, but you get the sense she's watching everyone, including you, by the way, just waiting to see who's going to screw up next. But over time, she lets her guard down. Not to everyone, that'd be suicide, but for a little old Makoto in the corner, that's it. And that's all we need. And that's why they work so well together. Makoto's the guy who's all about heart. He's trusting, a little naive, but always hopeful, hence the title, Ultimate Hope. Kyoko's the one who makes sure Hope doesn't get him killed. She keeps him grounded, focused, and he helps her remember that it's okay to let someone in every once in a while. They've got that balance. He pulls her towards trust, and she pulls him back from blind faith. It's probably one of the healthiest dynamics in the whole game, which, in Danganronpa, is saying quite a lot. Oh, how about that, eh? See how much less I have to say when I adore a character as opposed to spitefully hating them. Negativity sells, viewer. Moving on, let's pick from a hat. Mondo. Now, as much as his hair is literally a pile of grapes or super floppy corn on the cob, there's actually a character in it to talk about, and I'll be honest, I really like Mondo. At first, sure, he's exactly what you'd expect, you know? Tough guy, loud, short fuse, looks like he's one bad day away from decking someone for breathing too loud. And yeah, Makoto's sitting there thinking, if I don't look him in the eye, he can't kill me. Which, fair enough, but pretty quickly you start to see there's more to him. He's more than a 6-foot pit bull. The man's trying his best to be a better person. Now hear me out. By the time you're a few chapters in, he's not just the scary biker anymore. He's softening, opening up to people a little bit more. He's got that weird but genuinely sweet brotherhood going on with Taka. He's being kinder to Chihiro, and he's generally just calming down. Just ignore the fact that I just said that. So he's dropping the act and becoming more human, less of a persona, more of a person, that kind of deal. And everything seems like it's on the right track. But if you're following the trends of this game, that's until it isn't. Because while someone like Sayaka snaps from a moment of fear from a threat that she isn't even sure is real, Mondo's driven by something deeper, something that was very damn real, something he's been carrying around for long before he ever walked through Hope's Peak's front gates, and that, my friends, is a little thing called trauma, and I'm sure you're all familiar if you're in this fandom. And while I absolutely despise what he did, make no mistake, killing Chihiro is unforgivable, I connect with why he broke, if you get me. He wasn't being manipulative or trying to trick someone into a room so he could deck them. He was surprisingly quite honest a lot of the time. He was a very outspoken person, but you could see him flicker defensiveness on and off whenever things were said that he didn't particularly like. And knowing all this, it's just heartbreaking that his past grabbed him by the throat when he was finally trying to move forward. Chihiro came to him because he trusted him, because he believed in him, man. I'm gonna get there. Unfortunately, though, Mondo couldn't live up to that belief. Chihiro found the strength to face his secret. Mondo couldn't, and that made him snap. To flip things around to optimism for a second, Mondo knew he was wrong, right? You could see it. He moves Chihiro's body not to cover the crime up, but to protect his secret, and that's a bit of respect there. He destroys the e-handbook so no one else can find out. He keeps his promise, even after doing the worst thing imaginable. And when he's caught, after all that defensiveness falls away and we see the cracks, the real Mondo owns up to it. And for a guy who's all about fighting, he sure as hell backs down here. It's the first time we really see him drop the act. And then what happened to him? Monokuma turns him into butter. Literal butter. And then eats him. Because of course this is the psychotic robo-bear we're talking about. So yeah, he was pretty awesome. Which is my way of saying we're moving on to our next character, who's also pretty awesome. Kiyotaka, there we go, much easier. One of the first people I went up to in free time, funnily enough. Him and Hifumi. Actually, yeah, that's kind of poetic, but we'll get there. Taka stood out to me straight away, man. The eyebrows, the uniform, the way he's clearly clenching everything as he's about to crack in half from the pressure of being that straight-laced all the time. But there was something about him that I just liked, you know? He wasn't a poser or some cartoon hall monitor. Ooh. He really believed in this stuff. The rules, the system, doing the right thing because it was the right thing. Not for praise, not for clout. He just believed, and I had this weird semblance of respect for that. But it also made me a little sad, because you know exactly where that kind of mindset gets you in this game. The guy who believes in structure, who thinks if we all just play by the rules, things will work out fine. Yeah, you can guess how well that ends up for him. At first, though, he holds it together. He's organising morning meetings and trying to keep people focused, assigning himself as the de facto leader, because someone has to, right? And who better than the guy who treats the school rule book like the damn gospel? And for a while, it bloody works. Then Mondo comes along and shapes things up. They have this rivalry, pretty hilarious at first, two meatheads squaring over whose moral code is better, but then out of nowhere, in a sauna, they set on fire, and then it's like, yeah, we're bros now. They come out of that thing looking like they've just had some profound spiritual awakening, calling each other bro, and suddenly they're inseparable, like they found something in each other no one else gave them. For Mondo, it's a guy who sees past the tough guy act, and for Taka, someone he can let his guard down around, someone who makes him feel like he doesn't have to be perfect all the time. And for a while, Taka looks happy. He's not just the rule guy anymore. He's got a friend, someone who actually gets him. And it's honestly kind of wholesome, as much as it is annoying. Then Mondo's trial happens, and everything falls apart. Taka doesn't just lose a friend, he loses this prodigal individual holding him together. You watch him in the trial as he's in denial the whole time, refusing to vote for Mondo, voting for himself instead, like, yeah, nothing's real if I just don't do out. But it is. And after Mondo's executed, Taka breaks. He's silent for days, just staring, completely empty, and honestly, you get it. This was a guy who believed in rules and order, and the one time he let someone in, it destroyed him. So when Hifumi comes to him saying there's a way out, no wonder he takes his words with endless weight. Get it? He's desperate, and he's not thinking clearly anymore because the guy who was once all about keeping order is completely lost without someone to follow. And he ain't following Monokuma, I'm telling you that for free. His fall from grace hits hard because at the end of the day, Taka was never a bad guy, was he? He didn't want to hurt anyone, he just wanted to do what he thought was right, even if that meant sucking up to power and following every rule in the book, because in his mind, that was how you survived. And when those rules failed him, he had now left. And this leads us to our next character. Somehow, he competes with this weird little trinity of guys, all with their own baggage, but all of them tied together, particularly through Mondo. Chihiro Fujizaki. Damn it, I love him. I'm not gay, but this guy makes you think, you know? And I hate to be that guy, but there's some freakishly young-looking folks in anime and anime-inspired media especially, that you shouldn't really be simping for, you know, and to say it bluntly, pedos. But the wiki says he's 19, maybe he just looks young, maybe he's short, it's the makeup. Either way, he's older than me, so I don't know what I'm worrying about. Let me bury the copium in the yard for a minute, and I'll get into it. I'm not gonna lie though, he is adorable, and I don't mean in that way, calm down. It's just, he's the kind of character that when you look at him and you think, this guy just needs a hug, and nobody gives it to him, the bastards. But putting that aside, Chihiro's arc is one of the most tragic in the entire cast. He presents himself in this really soft way, timid, fragile, cries at any opportunity, and yeah, it's all the front. He puts on this effeminate persona because he's terrified of being seen as weak, but underneath that, there's this spark, this genuine drive to be stronger, to be better, and stop running away from who he really is. And when he gets that note from Monokuma, when his secret's sitting there in black and white with the threat of, oh, this could be leaked if you don't kill someone, knowing him, you'd think he'd be going mad. But nah, instead he makes a decision right there and then. He decides to change. And I'll be honest, it's hype as hell, man. But the game takes that hype and chucks it off a bridge, because poor little Chihiro never gets the chance to even start. He never gets to be the person he wants to be. And even worse, it's the one person he opens up to, the one person he trusts, that takes it away from him. Why? Mondo, you monster! And it's devastating stuff, man, because you know how hard that was for Chihiro, how much courage it took for him to just take that first step and tell someone his biggest damn secret in the entire world with such confidence, hiding the fear. Yet it gets twisted through Mondo's deformed perception, and it's ripped away from him in an instant. But here's the part that really gets me, you know, sadness, the emotion. Even after everything, Chihiro forgives him, the bloody oddball. You can actually tell through his alter ego, which, whoop-de-doo, what the hell's his name? Alter ego isn't just some program spitting out files, man, it's him. Chihiro put himself into it, his thoughts, his kindness, everything that made him who he was. Now, he didn't have to do that. Instead, he could have just built a basic AI, something cold and efficient. But instead, he made something that would actually take care of his friends, even if he wasn't there anymore. And when Taka's falling apart, Alter Ego steps in, using all the info he knows in an undoubtedly unhealthy, but still presently helpful way. He becomes what Taka needs. Mondo, because Chihiro cared, so much so that even in death, he wanted to be there for the people left behind. He actively fed Alter Ego information about all the other students. Whether for this reason or not, I'm unsure, but all I can say is there was definitely no malice behind lore dumping an AI bot with the exact mannerisms and talking points of his classmates for hours on end. He must have cared at least a morsel to put that much effort in. He aimed to do more than try and crack the school files so he could escape. He was trying to give them hope, like the whole damn point of the game. He wanted to stay by their side no matter what, and that's pretty awesome. Now, so far there's been a running theme. Mondo, Taka, and Chihiro all connected through one specific means, that being Mondo himself. Makoto's our protagonist, Sayaka's his first crush, and Kyoko's his love interest. But what about a murderer? One who not only attempted, but succeeded in their efforts. That's right, the over-the-top Reddit degen himself, Hifumi Yamada. Now, in complete unironic honesty, I kinda had faith in him at the start. I know, shocker. You know, the ultimate fanfic creator? Yeah, I completely ignored that. Selective vision, I suppose. I really thought this guy was gonna be the happy-go-lucky comic relief, the classic fat kid with a goofy expression who's loud, awkward, but ultimately harmless. And hey, I was half right. He is a decent guy overall. I just definitely didn't expect him to be a full-blown degenerate feral freak on top of it, nor the physical embodiment of actually. Still, though, he certainly is a character. Just a character. Like, imagine going from, oh, he's kind of sweet in his own way, to put the body pillow down, mate, come on. That's Hifumi. He starts off full of himself, and yeah, not in the same way as, say, Byakuya. Byakuya's got the whole holier-than-thou complex where you'd swear he bathes in wine and spits on the poor. Hifumi, though, he's just comfortable in his own skin, to put it lightly. Too comfortable. He says things out loud that should have stayed locked up in a dark corner of his mind, and better yet, he says them with complete confidence. I respect the honesty, but mate, have some shame, just an ounce. Still, for the most part, he doesn't really do anything harmful, right? Yeah, he drops an offhand sexual comment that makes you side-eye him from across the room, but usually whoever's on the receiving end shuts him down just as fast, and with something twice as degrading, so you shrug and move on. At first, I figured he's just a weird kid in the group, you know, overall harmless. We've all known someone like that, no doubt. And if you haven't, sorry to break it to you, it's probably you. Now, I wouldn't say Hifumi has much of an arc, at least not in the traditional sense, but there's one thing I am sure of, he definitely meant well. At least that's how I see it. Because when Celeste gets her claws in, that's when things go south. Fast. Shifi's in the story tells him that Taka, Mr. Morals himself, abused her, and whether you interpret that as physical, emotional, or the way Hifumi clearly took it, it's bad. Then she adds that Taka's supposedly taken some, let's call them, compromising photos of her, ready to be used as blackmail. And that's the thing. Celeste doesn't just feed him a sob story feed, get it? Okay. She gives him proof, or at least the illusion of proof, evidence that, in Hifumi's head, makes this all real. Out there somewhere there are images, pictures that prove that this happened. And that level of, oh, it's real, gives a bit of, it's a bit more believable, innit? And that sets him off, like sets him on fire. He's furious, betrayed, desperate to do something, and so he agrees. He goes along with Celeste's plan, and in a fit of rage, helps her murder Taka. A completely innocent Taka who just wanted to believe in people. And that's the tragedy, because he truly thought he was protecting someone, standing up for what's right, and though he wasn't the brightest bulb in the box, his intentions were far from malicious. And in the end, I can't bring myself to hate him, I don't know about you. His last words ended up helping the group crack the case wide open. He remembers just enough, has just enough clarity to give us the piece we needed to figure out who was behind it all. So yeah, good character in my eyes. Funny, humorous, but ultimately virtuous, even if that virtue got bent out of shape along the way. And who better to roll on into next? Get it? Roll, because Taka's dead body was rolled up. It's Celeste, everybody. Celeste, yeah. The beautifully manipulative, seasoned risk taker. The ultimate gambler. And no, that's not a joke. She wears that with pride. Now, I mentioned before how Celeste was keeping us all at arm's length. And honestly, I'm kind of glad she does, because her whole deal is fear. She's not trying to make friends or crack jokes or brighten the mood. She's here to straight up scare you. Nothing less, nothing more. She's this calculated, cold figure, and she knows exactly how to get in your head without ever lifting a finger. She'll outburst sometimes and say an outrageous sentence with the most serious tone ever, all to see the wusses in the back flail around in fear. But credit where credit's due, the voice acting spot on.
I am sorry to say, hero, but we do have evidence.
Her voice actor nailed the vibe perfectly. She sounds less like a person and more like an AI that's barely figured out how sarcasm works. Emotionless, robotic, flat in a way that's intentional, and that's what makes it work. You believe she's keeping herself locked down at all times, because letting anything real slip through would ruin the image. And I assume being the ultimate gambler gives her next level poker face. And then she snaps. When everything starts falling apart at the trial and Celeste finally drops the act, it's hysterical, man. She goes from cool and composed to full-on bitchy teen in 2 seconds flat. You can practically hear the, I don't need this school, I'll live in my European castle with my vampire manservants energy coming off her in waves. And it's funny, because it's such a contrast to everything she's been up to that point. This is supposed to be her losing, and she still can't let go of the act completely. Quick reminder, she dies smiling, by the way. And honestly, good riddance. At least someone enjoyed their time here. But hey, I'll give her this. She was good at keeping the tension high. You never quite knew what she was thinking, or if she was already 10 steps ahead of you. She kept things sharp when they needed to be sharp, which according to her was 24/7. I was instantly suspicious when she was so distressed at the man in the Transformers costume. So there's something else. She sure as hell knows how to put on an act. Word of advice for next time though, don't make your act the biggest knee-jerk reaction from your previous act, or people will start thinking you're bipolar. And yes, that's exactly what I thought. Though back to the trial, I did get a few laughs out of watching her try to cling on to her dignity right up until the fire truck mows her down. Now, I'm not a mega fan, but I get it. She played her role well, and then she cashed out. Simple as that. Let's get our rapid fires out of the way. Leon Kuwata, very much a non-character in my eyes. I spent 2 hours with him, then he died, and then I spent the next 35 hours with the other, more compelling characters. Let that sink in. I could have still refunded the game by the time he was executed. Sayaka gets a pass for being 1, a bitch, and 2... Whoa, stop right there. I'm editing this video. Just wanted to say, calling Sayaka a bitch was strong, okay? I do not agree with that. It was very strong language from me. I was just being a mega arsehole for no reason. Right, get back to it. 2, forcefully graced upon us as part of the storyline. Also, ultimate pop sensation, and then ultimate baseball star. I mean, it's no worse than ultimate fanfic creator or ultimate affluent progeny, whatever that means. But you've got Taylor Swift and then baseball man. I'm sorry, I don't know baseball. Maybe if he survived longer and we let things sit, I'd have more to say, but that doesn't really carry on to our next character. Yasuhiro. Okay, I tried my best to like him, I really did. I put all my effort into laughing at the 1 or 2 jokes that genuinely cracked me up, but there were just so many better characters that could have survived. He only became relevant near the latter half of the game. Without that initial introduction, I was pretty lost with him. And a similar sentiment as Leon with Mukuro Ikusaba. She was posing as a sister while she was alive, got betrayed by her, and the only time we saw her as Mukuro, she was fucking dead in the dirt. And exploded. I tell you what though, I'd take her Junko impression over the real Junko any day. We'll speak about her soon enough, but for now, let's take a trip to the pool. Ah, Hina, the donut-fueled bundle of serotonin this game really needed by the halfway point. I didn't talk to her much at first, to be honest. She wasn't exactly top of my list when I had all these other cool, quirky, or downright terrifying characters running about, but the more time passed, and the more of them started dropping like flies, the more I ended up spending my free time with her. And you know what? She grew on me. She's an alright character. Nothing mind-blowing, no shocking twist, no grand sacrifice. She's just there, and sometimes that's exactly what you need, you know? Especially in a game like this, where everyone else is slowly losing their minds. Hina's kind of a rock. Well, a rock that happens to consume 50 donuts a day, and somehow still looks like she's carved out of marble. Seriously, how? Was she inhaling donuts and then accidentally swooped up all of our metabolisms combined with it? I don't know. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you she's locked in Sakura's shadow the entire time, because she's not. She's her own individual character, but that doesn't disregard that she still doesn't really do much. I mean, sure, she has her moment of snapping when Sakura dies and tries to pull the whole "I'll get everyone killed out of revenge" thing, but even that's less than mastermind level betrayal and more like I'm grieving and Monokuma gaslit me into thinking my best friend died because of all of you. And honestly, fair enough. The thing is, Hina doesn't really have an arc. That's alright. Not every character needs to go through some massive personal transformation or moral collapse to be compelling. Sometimes you just need that one person who just manages to hold on to their positivity even when everything else is falling apart. She doesn't sacrifice herself for the greater good. She don't crack some hidden code to save everyone. She's just a good presence to have around. And in a game that's constantly shoving you head first into despair, that kind of energy matters, like a lot. But you know who else matters a lot? That's right, Sakura Ogami, let's go. I never really had that connection with Sakura. Like, yeah, as it says in the lore, I was too damn scared to become a friend. But I still cried my ass off when her suicide note was read out loud. That burned, man, it really did. She tried so hard to protect everyone from Monokuma, and honestly, I don't think there's a better person who could have been the Mastermind's spy. Well, not from the Mastermind's perspective, Junko's probably still fuming, but from our perspective, let me tell you, if it had been Byakuya or Celeste working for the Mastermind, mate, it would have been game over before Chapter 2, so that's why Sakura being the one picked made all the difference. She was a gentle giant, someone who was always willing to do the right thing, even if it meant sacrificing her self-help. That's exactly what she did. She died trying to bring closure to the people who hated her. Her plan was simple. She wanted to go to the people who despised her, despised, by the way, apologize, by the way, and then end her own life. First of all, ooh! And after learning how that went down, ooh, double ooh. And it's kind of wild when you think about it, isn't it? Not even Monokuma, not even the actual mastermind could kill her. No one could. So she had to do it herself. Man, that's something. I'm sure there's folks out there who could write essays on Sakura alone. Fair enough. But me, I can only be deeply connected to so many characters in this cast, you hear me? Speaking of which, nerve-wrackingly nervous Toko and her knife-happy split personality Genocide Jack have entered the chat, and I've got a word or two to say. I really like Toko as a character. She's just an absolute lunatic, and I mean it in the nicest way possible. There's so much potential for her to be a good person. Like, she's a good person, and that's just because she doesn't do anything bad. But being an actively good person, there's a lot to go with there. She's a good character writing wise as well, but she's an annoying ass person, man. I'm pretty sure the writers were laughing their asses off while writing her, watching players around the world pull their hair out like, oh my god, shut up, Toko. And honestly, fair play to them. They nailed it, didn't they? She's all but constantly stammering and flailing around like her own mouth's trying to strangle her. And yet, I don't hate her. She's funny, man. The way she overreacts to everything and somehow twists it into a self-deprecating insult makes it difficult not to chuckle. She's a mess, sure, but she's her mess, guys, so cut her some slack. And you can tell she wants to be a good person. She tries to fight off Genocide Jack, but her entire sense of self-worth is duct taped to Byakuya at this point. Without him, she's got nothing to cling to, so she just doesn't listen to anyone else, which is tragic because if Byakuya wasn't such an irredeemable prick, maybe she'd feel better about herself. But then again, nah, she'd probably just find another arrogant, emotionally unavailable narcissist to fixate on. Weird kink, but okay. No judgment, some judgment. I'd be fine with all that though, if she didn't constantly spill her horniness all over the floor every time Byakuya breathes. Shaking, panting, caffeine personified. Calm down, woman! And then we got Genocide Jack, and look, while I think Toko has more potential as a character, Genocide Jack wins for the present because she's just so unapologetically wacky. She's still as confusing as Toko, but everything's been cranked up to 11 unapologetically. She's got no filter, takes the piss out of everyone in the room, waves her scissors round like she's trying to redecorate the walls with your entrails, and then nothing. She just sits there, tongue hanging out, smiling like a dog that got into the peanut butter jar, and talks more about why she chooses not to kill certain people, rather than the ones she actually chooses to kill. The psychopathic murderer spends more time defending themselves than actively killing people. Something's telling me this is not a good business venture. And when you ask her about her type, nah, she's not into killing women, or strong men, or weak men for that matter. She wants specifically twinks with a slight level of dominance. I don't even know what that means, but you do you as long as you stay far away from me, mate. Speaking of her manipulator, introducing Byakuya Togami. Now, contrary to popular belief, I don't hate Byakuya like the rest of you, and before you come at me, hear me out. Sometimes, the assholes are the most lovable characters in a series, and Byakuya encapsulates that perfectly. He's such a cartoon. I don't even know if he's supposed to be a villain, an anti-hero, or just an insufferable narcissist with a god complex. Whatever it is, it bloody works, mate. He's not evil in the murderous mastermind sense, but he's not a good guy either. He treats everyone around him like they're beneath him, because in his head, they are. He's a smug, arrogant trust fund kid who's convinced he's the main character in every room he steps into. And honestly, undoubtedly hilarious, especially when Toko, or Genocide Jack, take your pick, shows up and just unleashes this brutal, vile verbal abuse on her. It's awful, it's straight up cruel, but it's also compelling as hell to watch because he's so unapologetically ruthless. He's one of those characters where every line feels like it's laced with poison, and you're morbidly curious as to how far he'll go just to make himself feel superior. And let's be honest, the way he's just done with Genocide Jack half the time, and he makes a tactical retreat like, nope, not dealing with this today, is hilarious as hell, man. Some slight analysis on this, Byakuya sort of changes. Not a lot, I'm not going to sit here and pretend he goes through some massive redemption arc, but there is a shift. It's small, subtle, but it's there. He starts handing tasks off to Makoto, not because he suddenly trusts him or wants him to be a team player, but because he knows he can rely on him to get shit done. And even as the game goes on, he shares a little more with us. He goes a little easier on the rest of the group. He even has to remind us constantly that he's not getting soft or sentimental or compassionate. God forbid. He's still Byakuya Togami, heir to a kingdom that no longer exists, thank you very much. But the fact that he just has to keep saying it, that he needs to tell himself out loud that he's not feeling things, that's what makes it interesting, because deep down, he is. He can't help it. When he thanks everyone at the end, when the vault unlocks and the game wraps up, you can see it. His PNG tells a lot, 1,000 words, you know. He wants to be cold, emotionless, but there's something in him that can't pull it off completely anymore. And that's why I like him. He's a prick, but he's our prick. And speaking of pricks, oh look, it's Junko. Let's talk about despair then, shall we? Right out of the gate, Junko's a mixed bag. Literally, oh my god, she's a mixed bag. Personality-wise, thematically, sometimes even physically, depending on which voice she's using at the time. Her design is pretty awesome, I'll give her that. No doubt about it. But then again, everyone's design's killer in this game, so I'm not giving her a cookie for that one. She is the ultimate fashionista overall. I'd expect nothing less than perfection from Hot Topic's mascot. But ignoring the Junko that's actually Mukuro at the start of the game, yeah, we're skipping past that mess. The real Junko Enoshima, I bloody hate her, and not in a fun way. Not in a Byakuya way where you love to hate him because he's an arrogant rich kid playing 4D chess and being a prick because that's just his Tuesday. No, no, no. Junko takes Byakuya's worst impulses, amplifies them by about 1,000, spins the dial a few more times, and then we're all good. I'm convinced she's either a hive mind or has dissociative identity disorder, just like Genocide Jack. Cranked up to the absolute max, though. 1 minute, she's deadpan and emotionless. The next, she's screaming at you in some cracked out gremlin voice, the best one, by the way, licking the floor, or something equally hot, I mean weird, and it's chaotic, sure. And entertaining in its own way. Sure, it's exhausting. But the thing that really gets under my skin, right? She shows no remorse. Zero. She takes the piss out of everyone, mocks you for even trying, and when she finally cops it, when you think there might be a crack in the mask, nope, she dies smiling, no fear, no regrets, just basking in the despair she dragged everyone into. It's like her idea of a spa weekend. It's not even satisfying watching her lose because she loves it. She wins by losing. How do you even fight that? And look, I could pretend to like her. I could sit there and say, oh, she's so complex, or clap for the masterful writing, but I won't, because in universe, I can't stand her, man. She shows up, hijacks the whole Monokuma vibe, who, by the way, was easily one of the best characters, and replaces him with, well, herself, the most pathetic individual I've ever seen piloting a robotic bear. And listen, I've not seen many people piloting robotic bears, but I'll take Cassidy from FNAF any day over this absolute dumpster fire of a human being. This isn't a jab at the writers, by the way. She's amazingly written, hateable in all the right ways, she's a villain through and through, and if the whole point was to make me want to see her get drop-kicked into orbit, mission accomplished, fellas. But for a character with such a cool, slick design, she's exactly how you'd expect the ultimate despair to act. There's no twist, no subversion, it's just straight up, hey, what if nihilism had a body count? And that's fine, I guess. But would it have killed her to, I don't know, have a moment of weakness? Something human? No? Well, alright then, laugh it up, Junko. I've had enough of this. Monokuma! Ruin the pacing by quickly revealing the title sequence. Oh, hell yeah! Damn, these chapters sure are vague. Basically, the story. It's about the game's story. What works, eh? How well written is this damn thing? And while I'm far from capable of discerning that, I'll give it a go. Basically, I'll run through each miraculous reveal in the game, literally all of them occurring at a Clash trial, so there's your rule of thumb. If it had a Clash trial, it's worthy enough for discussion and analysis in this chapter, as it's considered an important event, in my eyes. Let's get into it, and I'm gonna wind down now. Ooh, the cryptid persona. Ooh, it's getting deeper and deeper. Oh wait, I just realised I'm falling. Oh no! Okay. You're Makoto Naegi, a hopeful, slightly clueless student, but a lovable protagonist, who's been plucked from obscurity as the ultimate lucky student, shows up at Hope's Peak Academy, ready for the best years of his life, and wakes up in a murder school. Nice. And then it gets weirder the moment Monokuma shows up, the sadistic teddy bear from hell. He lays down the rules, you're all trapped in here, and the only way to get out is to kill someone and get away with it, all that stuff. If you can commit a murder and no one figures out it was you, congrats, you get to graduate, and everyone else gets executed. Get caught, you die. No pressure. Immediately, genius setup. At the tip of a hat, your 15 classmates are now suspects, potential victims and potential killers. Every relationship you form has an undercurrent of, can I really trust this person? And that tension never really lets up. And the writing takes full advantage of that. The first murder kicks off fast. I mean, Blink and Sayaka Miyazono, your childhood friend, your totally not suspicious crush, the one girl the game practically shoves into your arms, is dead. Not just dead, but cold on the bathroom floor, knife in her chest. But plot twist, turns out she was actually trying to kill you. Yeah, Miss Pop Sensation over here lures you into a trap, plans to stab Leon in your room, frame you for it, and skip out of Hope's Peak with a diploma and a bloody knife in her purse. And it backfires pretty damn hard. Leon fights back. Sayaka gets the business end of a shower rod, also known as her own bloody knife, emphasis on the bloody, and now here you are, day 3, Clash Trial 1, fighting for your life. Hope you studied, you numbskull. Now, on the surface, this trial's pretty simple. It's the tutorial, after all, but underneath that is Danganronpa laying out its entire game plan in neon lights. Nobody's safe, nobody's trustworthy, and just because someone calls your name in a soft voice doesn't mean they won't flip the script and turn you into a speedrun category in a second. It's the game whispering, don't get comfortable, and then kicking your teeth in when you do. Great job, guys! And I'll say this, Leon's trial might not be the most complicated, but it hits hard enough. Sayaka's betrayal, Leon's desperation, even though you very much didn't need to go and grab the tools, you prick, and Makoto's cute little heartbreak, it sets the emotional tone for everything that follows from this point forward. Baby's first taste of true despair, and it makes it all the more prevalent as the writers clearly aimed it at you, the player, Makoto. There's a level of personality that comes with directing the narrative and the first initial betrayal onto the player, as it drills that idea further into their head and immerses them that much more. It could have been Celeste's betrayal of Hifumi, but it wouldn't hit as hard by that point in the story, as we're not remotely connected to any of these characters as of yet. So choosing Sayaka, the one forceful connection this game throws at you to be the betrayer, it's brilliant, it's cruel, it's so damn good. I'm not even joking. But I'm not done, because not only are you dealing with Sayaka's betrayal, which let's be honest sucks either way, but the game's also shoving a manual into your hand going, hey, while you're crying, figure out these trial mechanics, will ya? You're learning how to present evidence, shoot down arguments, memorize weak spots, all while your brain's going, wait, Sayaka tried to murder me? It's brutal, but I'll be damned if it ain't intentional. It's a quick message from the game. It does not give you the time to grieve. It sweeps that under the rug and says, solve the mystery, or you die. And as if it couldn't get any worse, you've also got to start mingling with the rest of the cast too, trying to build relationships, even though the last person you trusted just tried to gut you out like a fish. So there's this sense of paranoia in every interaction. You're side-eyeing everyone, wondering who's next. But the game needs you to engage, because that's how you get skills, perks, and more story. It's this messed up cycle of trust, betrayal, and survival, all working together to keep you moving forward, when all you want to do is sit in the corner and process your trauma. Get it? That rhymed. Anyway, and dragging your remaining sanity to chapter 2 is where Danganronpa really hits its stride, as little Chihiro Fujizaki, our sweet, timid programmer, is found dead, hung up like some twisted art piece in the locker room, crucified with an extension cord and branded with bloodlust in his own blood. It's gruesome. And yeah, it's brutal on the surface, but the story behind it is even worse somehow, because this isn't just another whodunit. This isn't figure out who killed Chihiro and move on. No. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but from a writing sense, this is where Danganronpa shifts gears. Monokuma may be shifting the game along and getting straight to the killing, but the writers move their focus from honing in on Monokuma's vision of a fast-paced, despair-filled bloodshed and begin to focus more on unveiling character relationships and their unfortunate downfall. Mondo Owada, the tough-as-nails biker gang leader, killed Chihiro. Not because he hated him, not because of a lust for power, or because Monokuma waved $1 million in his face, but because he snapped. Chihiro came to him, trusted him, he confided in Mondo about his biggest secret. He told him his wish to get stronger and start running away from who he truly is.
I want to change.
Of course, Mondo couldn't handle it, because Mondo's been running away from his own demons this whole time, his guilt over his brother's death. his shame, his fear of being weak. He acted out of jealousy, out of fear, out of self-loathing. He murdered Chihiro because seeing him find courage made Mondo feel all the more pathetic. And honestly, that's why this chapter's so damn painful. It's nothing to do with the malice, nor the cold-blooded killing. In fact, there was barely a motive. The whole thing was just a random outburst. There was just one man unable to keep his monkey brain in check, and it took control. And it's about someone who was trying to be better and someone else who was too scared to let them. And then there's Taka. Poor Taka. Watching him fall apart when Mondo's revealed as the killer is like a deer in headlights. He loses his best friend, the only guy who saw past his rigid rule following and treated him like a person. And now he's standing there in the trial screaming Mondo's name, not voting for him, desperately holding on to the belief that this can't be real, that his bro couldn't do this. It's gut-wrenching. This trial isn't just about evidence and logic and proving who did it, it's about watching a group of people crack. It's about watching relationships crumble under the weight of guilt and grief. If you can't tell, I'm really enjoying this right now. This whole shebang makes you feel so odd. You're left with what seems to be no home. It's all been destroyed, wrecked, and so you're forced to make this place your home. Yet how can you when all of this chaos is happening? Usually, in an environment of trauma, there's something you can turn to, whether that be a family member, TV show, game, anything. But Makoto doesn't have this, so he's left in an environment where everyone's constantly at each other's throats, literally and figuratively, with nothing to comfort him. And Danganronpa wants you to sit with that comfort. It wants you to feel the claustrophobia of this world, where even acts of courage and trust are punished. It's a whole spiel of, hey, remember when we said this was a killing game? Well, we weren't kidding. By the end of this chapter, the idea of solving mysteries is thrown straight out the window, in place for just observing others' downfalls. And then Monokuma turns Mondo into butter. Yep, I said it, butter. Have that on toast, mate. Moving on to chapter 3, you start thinking you've got a bit of a handle on things, you know? But just because you believe something doesn't mean you're right. Celestia Ludenberg, our gothic gambler, pulls off one hell of a con. She manipulates Hifumi Yamada into helping her kill Kiyotaka Ishimaru. Man, fuck these last names with more than 3 syllables. That's what I'm taking from this so far. I don't know whether I'm just Japanese racist or something. And then she kills Hifumi. All for 10 million buckaroos and a dream of living in a castle with handsome vampire butlers. How nice. Not like I got the chance to know I'm dead. That's right, she leaves us all to die for that dream. And while that's so absolutely valid, pretty sad I'm not knocking about able to see it. Interestingly though, this chapter isn't just about another murder mystery. It's quite messy the more you look into it. Fake murders, staged attacks, disguises, lies stacked on lies, and Hifumi running around back and forth being Celeste's errand boy while burning more calories than he has in a bit. It's ridiculous, it's chaos, but it's also ridiculously deliberate chaos. Celeste isn't acting out of panic, man. She's not forced into a corner like the killers before her. She's choosing this. A damn psycho on the loose, and it flew over our heads as, oh, goth woman, the creepy kooky. She's playing the long game. And watching her weave this massive, elaborate web of manipulation is both fascinating and horrifying at the same time. This case is the first you really get a sense of how deep people can fall in this game. The first 2 chapters were crimes of passion, driven by desperation and fear. But this is greed, pure unfiltered selfishness. Celeste is more opportunistic than she is desperate. She sees this motive, she sees the money, and decides it's time to cash out. Celeste walks into this with a clear head and a poker face, and reading her specialty back now, it makes all the more sense. Now, that'd be enough, you know? Alas, a truly deviant villain has revealed themselves, but we're not moving on like the other 2 times. The game makes you watch as it all comes crashing down. During the trial, you get to see her carefully curated facade start to splinter. The polite smile fades, the calm composure starts to crack, and by the end, it's Armageddon. She's throwing insults like knives, spitting venom, and desperately clinging to whatever scraps of dignity she has left. She hates losing, and it's almost satisfying in a way, right? Watching this master manipulator get caught in her own sprawling web. Previously, Leon freaked out, but it wasn't out of character, he was just like that, you know? Mondo owned up to it, very defeatedly. Celeste is someone who's been so intrinsically in a character for so long and then has now broken out of it. There has never been such a reaction, such a shift in the atmosphere up until this point. But this chapter is important for another reason too. It's the turning point when you realise that the game's more about human nature than it is survival. About what people would do when they think they've got a way out. Celeste killed because she saw an opportunity, plain and simple, and she took it. The game forces you to sit with that, and you realise Monokuma's already won, at least for now, because the killing game stretches beyond murder. It finds real joy, real despair in breaking people. And by the end of this chapter, yeah, we've totally had our fill. But that won't stop Monokuma and the Mastermind milking every last drop of it. And as glad as I am to be done talking about Celeste, Chapter 4 isn't much of a fan of that relief, because guess what? Sakura Ogami, the strongest person in the group, both physically and emotionally, is revealed to be Monokuma's spy. Yeah, big reveal, huge shock, but weirdly enough, she never betrayed anyone, right? She was being blackmailed, and she played along because she thought it was the only way to protect everyone else and her family's dojo, which is, you know, not really the greatest motive there, is it? She was shielding them like a human, or maybe superhuman wall, bearing the brunt of it so no one else had to. But of course, when the truth comes out, everything falls apart. The group turns on her. Hard. And honestly, can you blame them? The trust was already paper thin at this point, and finding out that the person you thought was your bodyguard, by the way, was technically working for the enemy, it's gonna break people. Byakuya leans into it with that smug satisfaction he always carries. He gets slapped in the face. Great. Toko flips a lid, and even Hina, her closest friend, is scrambling to figure out how to defend her. It's messy and heartbreaking, but also it's exactly what Monokuma wanted, don't get me wrong. But Sakura, man, Sakura stays true to herself to the very end, doesn't she? She doesn't lash out, she doesn't defend herself, she just decides she's going to end it on her terms. No more games, no more lies. She writes a letter explaining everything, her reasons, her regrets, her hope, and then she commits suicide. She chooses death, thinking it'd be the cleanest way to stop the killing, that by removing herself from the equation, she can give the others a chance to survive. And Monokuma, the furry little bastard, can't just let that be noble, can he? Nope, he forges a fake suicide note and twists the whole thing, making it look like Sakura killed herself because she'd lost all hope. He paints her death as the ultimate despair fest, and honestly, for a moment, it works. Sorry to say it. Hina fell apart and blames everyone else and nearly gets herself and the entire group executed out of pure grief and rage. Once again, no longer who done it? It's all about the why now. The why. It's about understanding who Sakura was, what she stood for, and why her death means something more. And it's one of the few times the Clash Trial format works as an emotional climax, not just a narrative one. When they finally piece together the truth, it's like a breath of fresh air. They all stand up to Monokuma. They refuse to let him rewrite Sakura's legacy. It's this beautiful moment of genuine unity. And for the first time in the game, it feels like the group actually stand a chance. Might. And then Byakuya opens his mouth, reminds you that it's all too good for this filth, and the moment's over, back to square one. If anything, it's worse now, lads. The tension's higher, the paranoia's thicker, and the damage is deeper. Sakura's sacrifice didn't fix anything, it didn't bring them together, at least not in a way that lasts. And that's the point. This is the game's way of hammering home that no matter who sacrifices what, or how noble their reasons are, the cycle of distrust is still grinding everyone down. This is exactly what the Mastermind wants. They want the survivors to keep tearing each other apart, to choose despair because hope is just too exhausting to hold on to. And as the player, watching this happen, knowing it's only getting worse, yeah, it tears through you too. You're sitting there thinking, they're winning. You can feel it. The Mastermind is winning. And you're starting to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there's no crawling back from this. But oh boy, things don't end here. It's going to get even darker, and I'm going to be talking even slower and even more serious, even more impactful. As possibly the most impactful moment of the game occurs, Makoto's execution. The case of Mukuro Ikusaba. Even I was stunned by this. I know, wow. I genuinely never expected to be slapped in the face like that so hard. All of the people left, including Kyoko, whom I thought I trusted, betrayed me. Notice how I say me and not Makoto. That's because the game had hooked me in so far, so deep into the narrative that I couldn't help but feel the gut punch when this happened. The execution is slow and steady. Monokuma makes sure you feel every second of it. You're on the conveyor belt and all you can think about is, they all gave up on me. Even Kyoko, even after everything you did for her, even after risking your life to protect her and keeping her secret, you can tell yourself she had no choice. You can tell yourself she was trying to survive too, but it doesn't change the fact that she voted for you. And then, at the last second, when you've already accepted that it's over, Alter Ego swoops in. That last little spark of hope, Chihiro's legacy clutching up 1v8 to save your ass. It's relief, sure, but it's the worst kind. Because you're not happy, you're angry, you're empty. Unfortunately, it doesn't end there. The dread, the pain, the realization as you fall into the abyss that the people you spent the last 25 hours with gave you up. Just like that. Kyoko didn't know Alter Ego would show up. None of them did. As far as they knew, they'd just killed you. And they did it anyway. And it makes you stop and think, how did I get so invested in this? Why does it hurt so much? But the answer's pretty simple. It's because you were meant to. The game wants you here, buried under all the weight of betrayal and despair. And yeah, we'll put a pin in that thought for now, because we're going to come back to it later. But just know, this is where the game tightens its grip. And it does not let go. The game then flips the pacing. When Kyoko plunges down to save you, there's no special effect, no real time to celebrate even. It's just straight back to the boring, mundane mission, in a good way. You then get this super drawn out sequence between Makoto and Kyoko, chatting and slowly ascending the ladder. This shift is super important, as it subliminally implants the idea that nothing is worth the applause anymore, because even the most miraculous of outcomes cannot compare to the power of despair. Skipping a few dialogue boxes, and by that I mean, whoa! Hold up! It's the same bunch of fuckers. Nobody's died? Damn, well, oh, and we're still on Mukuro's trial? Oh, this is a lot to take in, I need a minute. Oh, wait, no, I don't need a minute, because here she comes. The one, the only, Junko Uenoshima. The real ultimate fashionista. And surprise, she's been the mastermind the entire time. Yeah, she's the puppet master, and the one making Monokuma dance. And the reason your classmates turned on each other like it was Black Friday at a department store. And why? Because she's completely, hopelessly obsessed with one thing. Despair! And not just any despair, she's serving despair in 5 flavors with extra toppings. It's exhausting and terrifying and kind of impressive if you weren't busy being horrified. But Junko is... where do I start?
That's me.
She's chaos incarnate. 1 minute, she's acting like a toddler who missed nap time, by the way. The next, she's got the poise of a monarch condemning you to the guillotine. But the scariest part is that she's actually enjoying this. She's not trying to do it for revenge, power, or some grand ideological crusade. She's doing it because it's fun. She wiped their memories, she turned friends into killers, she orchestrated a death game on live TV for a big old belly laugh. And when she finally loses and the house of cards comes tumbling down, she laughs again. Right up until she hits the button on her own execution, smiling, loving every second of it. Her reveal ties everything in one giant ugly bow. The memory gaps, the 2 years everyone mysteriously forgot, why they all chose to lock themselves inside Hope's Peak in the first place. As much as I wish it was, it in fact was not Monokuma holding them hostage. It was Junko and her damn despair. And then comes the real final trial, ignoring everything we've learned up to this point. Focus on one thing, whether you can believe. That's it. Whether you can hold on to hope when everything, absolutely everything tells you to let go. Screw a suspect. The ultimate asshole is asking you to give up, no further questions asked. But Makoto Naegi, our ultimate lucky student, or should I say, ultimate waste of space up until this point, says no. And in taking that small, tiny, minuscule, like actually fucking microscopic step, he becomes the ultimate hope. This scrawny, sleep-deprived kid with nothing but plot armor and a decent heart rallies everyone left, pulls them back from the brink, and gets them to believe there's somehow a way out. It's so hype. Somehow it actually works. They vote for hope. Junko loses, and for the first time in what feels like forever, they escape. All it took was hope. Alright, who's smoking weed outside? Oh, it stinks, man. Now, pin that final scene right there, because trust me, we're going to need a whole separate chapter for that emotional punch in the face. Hold tight. At its core, Danganronpa is a battle between hope and despair. Junko wants to prove despair always wins. Makoto refuses to let her. Pretty simple setup, right? Every trial, every death, every twisted reveal is designed to break you. And yet, through Makoto, through those last few survivors, you hang on. Because maybe, just maybe, hope can really win. Oh, and the writing, it's masterful. It walks the line perfectly, never preaching at you, yet never pulling its punches. Kinda like this script. We are one in the same. You feel the despair. It sinks into you with mercy unknown. But you cling to the hope solely because the game lets you. The characters, flawed, complex, human. The plot twists, absolutely bananas, but foreshadowed just enough to feel earned. And the themes, hope, despair, life, death, trust, betrayal, they all stick, and oh boy do they hit hard. This game made me laugh. It made me angry. It made me cry. More than I care to admit. There's something about when you hear the words of someone who knows that it's over, right? It's all the true thoughts that they'd never say otherwise. It's all the ones that they wouldn't say on a day-to-day basis, because why would you tell someone you love them every day? You never know when you're going to die, but if you knew you were going to die the next day, you'd say that you'd tell the people you love that you love them. I'm really, truly sorry, but please don't be sad. And that is what great storytelling does. It sticks with you. So if you're still wondering how this game is still haunting us 15 years later, well, not for me, I just finished it. It's this chapter right here. Next up, we're diving into how Danganronpa takes all this emotional carnage and turns it into actual gameplay. We're talking mechanics, skills, the whole shebang. Get ready for some serious nerding out. I'll see you there. Take it away, Monokuma lad. Oh, right, this is a game. So far, we spent a lot of time in the thick of it, murders, betrayals, tears, butter, but, you know, one thing we've not really talked about, the fact that this is a game, like an actual video game, one you play with your hands. Yeah, despite all the post-trial existential dread and frequent, oh god, not this again feelings, Danganronpa is, at its core, a game, and a damn good one at that, telling a deeply interwoven narrative story about hope and despair is one thing, making you play it is a whole other can of worms, and this chapter we're going to dive headfirst into those mechanics, how this game gamifies murder, friendships, betrayal, all the juicy awful things that keep us up at night. So let's get into it, starting with daily life. Monokuma, daily life, the boring part. At first glance, daily life sections feel like your classic slice of life. You walk around Hope's Peak in first person, chat up your classmates, and pick who you want to spend free time with. You give them presents. No, I did not Google the best gifts for X character. I'll prove it. Yeah, let's spend some time. Yes, and I'll force you to shower as well. That's nice. Have I got a present to give her? Oh, I actually do. A chinchilla cover. I don't think that's relevant to what we're doing right now. I'll give her a chinchilla cover.
What the heck?
Oh. Okay, sorry. You learn about their hobbies, their backstories, maybe even unlock a little bit of lore or a cute character moment. It's cozy. Until you realise the entire time you were thinking, man, I sure hope this person doesn't end up with a knife in their stomach tomorrow. Ah, shit. Because the thing is, you need these bombs. You want those skills, boosts that help you in class trials, more focus gauge, slower reticules, like an RPG, except the party members either die or kill someone before you can finish maxing out their social link. And the mono coins, your little currency for the mono machine. Oh, we got a stupid Monokuma coin or whatever. Yeah, that thing spits out random junk and maybe the odd gift for your next BFF, you know? It's pure parasocial hell and it's glorious. But just when you think you're getting into a rhythm, someone dies. No, he's dead! Why? Why? What a gay way to die! Goodness sakes, why? Why they killed my favourite two characters? And the game yanks you out of your comfort zone as it loves to do. And thus, you're thrown into deadly life. Deadly life! Ooh, this is getting juicy! Boom, body discovery announcement. Boom, Monokuma's obnoxious voice blares over the speakers. Boom, it's time to play detective. Deadly Life is where the game shifts into full-on investigation mode. You're full Phoenix Wright, minus the courtroom for now. Walk around, gather evidence, interrogate your remaining traumatized classmates. The works. You got 1, 2, 3, about 15 goals in mind. Piece together the who, what, where, and why. You collect truth bullets here, snippets of evidence, testimony, and logic you'll later use in the class trial. It's oddly satisfying. Danganronpa makes you feel like you're getting smarter, even if Makoto's already figured it all out and you're just playing catch-up. Just me? Okay. Pacing-wise, it's tight. Daily Life lulls you in with conversations about donuts and personal trauma. Deadly Life slaps you across the face with crime scenes and corpses. Rinse, repeat. But after the evidence is collected, you gotta actually introduce it, which is why we have the class trial. It's objection, but with guns! And now the real game begins. Welcome to the class trial, where friendships die, accusations fly, and you better have your facts straight or Monokuma's gonna make you very dead. The first piece in the class trial puzzle, non-stop debates. These are the core gameplay loop of these trials. Characters talk over each other while text scrolls by, and you, holding Makoto's metaphorical gun, but hey, it could be physical, I guess we'll never know, need to find contradictions and shoot them with your truth bullets. The vibe is chaotic, fast-paced, you're reading, aiming, shooting, thinking all in real time. The timer's ticking, the music's blaring, it's Stress City, overstimulation, but you're used to that. But good thing about it being Stress City is that you're the mayor. But landing that perfect shot, it's satisfying in a way that makes you forget you're condemning someone to death. But then there's the flip side, which for me is most of the time when you screw up. In this dire event, you lose what's called influence, basically your classmates' trust. And if you lose it all, game over. It's a brilliant metaphor. More mistakes you make, the less they believe you. Fail to win them over, you die. Simple as. Another component of class trials, Hangman's Gambit. You shoot letters to spell out key clues. It's a nice change of pace. Even if you'll sometimes sit there yelling, what word am I even spelling? But it works. Slower, more thoughtful, less adrenaline, more, please don't let me fail 4th grade spelling. But this is the most boring of the bunch, especially compared to the almighty bullet time battle. This one's hilarious. You get into a one-on-one argument, and suddenly the game turns into a rhythm shooter. Pressing time to the beat, lock onto their nonsense, and fire away. Mess up the rhythm, you're toast. But nail it, oh boy, catharsis. Especially when you finally get Toko to shut up for 5 seconds. It's silly and intense. It works. And finally, you'll piece it all together in a comic book panel puzzle. Rearrange the story and explain how the crime went down. It's bloody epic, mate, trust me. When it's all said and done, you sit back and watch as Makoto lays it out. It's rewarding. It makes you feel like you figured it out, even if Kyoko is really doing all the heavy lifting. And then Monokuma has a laugh before someone gets pancaked by a giant mallet, or worse. So, pretty brief. We all good? Oh, I'm waffling? Oh, sorry, I suppose it's time for How the Gameplay Tells the Story. Man, that wasn't an interesting title at all, was it? Danganronpa's gameplay isn't just fun, idiot. It reinforces the themes. Obviously! You're shooting lies with bullets of truth, you're fighting to be heard in a room of paranoia and distrust, you earn skills through trust, trust often gets you killed, every error you make chips away at your influence, the game isn't subtle, screw up, and your friends lose faith in you. Trust and hope are mechanics. Hope is something you fight for, not something you're given. You only get stronger through trials, literally and metaphorically. Solve murders and you advance. Level up, but you only get stronger because your friends died. The pacing lulls you in with daily life, and then slams you with deadly life. It keeps you constantly off balance, just like the characters. Monokuma's twisted game is your game too. You're complicit, and you're desperate to survive, even if it means digging through your friend's darkest moments. Danganronpa doesn't let you stay on the sidelines. You're in this, whether you like it or not, lad. The gameplay makes you live despair and claw your way back out to hope. Every truth bullet fired, every debate survived, every argument won, it's all part of dragging yourself and your classmates towards some kind of conceivable future. Now, apologies for the surprising left turn, I'm just role-playing as the game, don't mind me. We're going straight into the next chapter from this. We'll talk about that future, and how, even after it's over, you can't quite leave Hope's Peak behind. Time to get emotional, mate. Hold on to your tear ducts. Take it away, Monokuma. Man, now I'm gonna get all soppy. I'm actually super excited for it, to be honest. Danganronpa has to be one of my top 5 games of all time. Breath of the Wild for a combination of thrilling action and a sprawling open world. Transformers Fall of Cybertron for nostalgia's sake. Danganronpa for genuinely breaking my heart and making me cry tears of... I don't even know what. Alright, I'll admit it, I'm stalling. So after that short little bridge, let's fade to black and enter sentimental mode. Okay, deep breath. So, that ending, that final scene, watching Makoto and the survivors escape Hope's Peak, stepping through the doors into whatever's left of the world. After everything, after 40 hours of betrayals, breakdowns, and people being turned into butter, after spending an entire game second-guessing every word out of everyone's mouth. And then, they just leave. They walk out, and the screen fades out with nothing but the sound of the wind. And it's so quiet. No music, no swelling orchestras, no dramatic speech, just wind. And for a second, you don't even know if they're walking into something better or worse. But they go away. They move forward anyway. What got me about this scene, though, wasn't just that they escaped, it's how they escaped. Nobody kicks the doors open screaming freedom or collapses in relief. There's no one breaking down sobbing or holding a victory pose. They just nod. They all kind of share this look, this silent mutual understanding of what they've been through and what's waiting for them out there. And you realise they've already accepted it, accepted each other, accepted the weight of everything they've lost. They don't need to say it out loud. They've already lived it. And then there's Makoto, the guy who dragged them here, the one who refused to give up when everyone else did. You can feel him standing there, realising that hope isn't some shiny, clean thing. It's messy, it's bruised and battered, it's surviving even when you're not sure what's next. And that's the hope they're walking out with. And then Hina cracks a joke, or Toko grumbles about something, or Byakuya rolls his eyes like he's too cool to care, even though you know he does. And it's so normal. They're them again. After everything, they can still be themselves. And that tiny little exchange, that's the game whispering to you that they're gonna be okay. And that's why this scene works, because it doesn't try to sell you on some fairy tale ending where everything's fine and sparkly. It shows you a world of broken people who chose to believe they can put the pieces back together. And that's more powerful than any big hero speech. Danganronpa spent 40 hours tearing these characters down, pushing them to the brink, making them doubt themselves and each other over and over and over again. Then, in the end, it gives them the tiniest sliver of hope. And they take it. That quiet, simple choice to walk through the doors and face whatever's next. That's the most powerful moment in the game. And the best part, it's earned. You feel how much they fought for this, how much they've lost, how much they've grown. And there's something satisfying about knowing they're not running away from the past. They're carrying it with them. They survived not just the killing game, not just Junko's despair, but themselves. And the player, you're right there with them. You don't get closure, you don't get to see what's on the other side, but you do get to believe, and that's enough. And I sat there, completely still. Not in some grand cinematic pause for effect kind of way. I mean, physically, I didn't move. I was frozen, like Taka after Mondo's death, except I wasn't screaming. I was just there for hours. Actual hours. Danganronpa did something to me I've never experienced before with a game. It left me empty, proper hollowed out. Not even in a man, what a satisfying ending way. It felt like something had been scooped out of my chest and lobbed into a black hole. I thought, alright, I'll sit with this feeling, process it, but there wasn't anything to process. Nothing was happening. So, after half an hour of staring at a blank screen like a confused NPC, I tried to watch some TV. It didn't work. Couldn't focus. I switched over to the finals, which, if you've watched this channel before, you know that I love that game. The game's normally so fast-paced, I can't even think when I'm playing it, but somehow I unlocked a sixth sense. I was running plays, fragging out, capturing points on autopilot while my brain was still stuck in Hope's Peak. Not thinking about the game, not thinking about anything, just floating. Eventually, I gave up and meditated for an hour. That helped a bit, emptied my head out finally. But after that, I turned off every light in my room, climbed into bed, and just cried. Like, cried. The ugly kind. Tears that don't even know what they're crying for. Joy or grief? Yeah, all of it, none of it, who knows? It was a mess. I was a mess. For 40 hours straight, I was invested in these characters, in this story. Every time I finished recording, I'd go trawling through Reddit threads, looking for people who were at the same point in the story as me, seeing their theories, their reactions, just wanting to share that experience with someone, anyone, because I wasn't ready to let it go. Between sessions, I downloaded 3D models of the characters and made silly little renders of them in Blender, just messing about, just existing in that world a little longer while I waited for some peace and quiet so I could hit record again. And when it finally ended, when the last truth bullet was fired and the last trial was over, I wasn't addicted, but I was definitely lost. There's this emptiness that comes with finishing a story that grabs you by the throat and doesn't let go. When it ends, and you're just sitting there, holding on to something that isn't there anymore. The game's over, the story's been told, the characters are gone, and all you're left with is silence. And it's beautiful, in retrospect. But at the time, it was just brutal. Danganronpa made me feel something I wasn't expecting. It made me feel nothing at all. A kind of stunned, hollow nothing that lasted for hours. And then, when it was finally done with me, it hit me with everything else all at once. I actually went on a hike the next morning to clear my head a little bit, and that helped. But post-game depression doesn't just shake off that easy, and honestly, I wasn't scared of it. Not one bit, because that's what a good story does. It makes you feel like your life is a little less interesting now that it's over. Like you've left something important behind. Finishing a great book, or a movie that wrecks you, or a game that grips you like this. Returning to normal life after that is pretty weird. Disorientating. Even a little sad. But that's the point. Fictional worlds are supposed to pull you in. They're supposed to immerse you so completely that when it's over, you miss them. Danganronpa did that. Clear as day. It ripped me out of reality and threw me headfirst into a world full of despair and hope and madness. And when it was finished, it didn't let me go easy. 15 years later, this game still holds up. It still hits hard. I love this game. This is a phenomenal experience, and it makes me so happy to be able to express it in this way. I hope that you guys enjoyed. My ramblings, my analysis, whatever it may be, just thank you for allowing me to share this with you guys. This game still holds up. It still hits hard, and it still stands tall as one of the best stories I've ever experienced. The Killing Game ended, but I'm still playing it.